Okay, so now that we've got the basics out of the way, we know roughly what the stat distribution is for the minion wave, and we kind of know how they look for targets. We can start thinking about like, what does this mean in game? What do I want the wave to do, and how can I get the wave to do it? So, first thing you're probably gonna learn is what's the most efficient way to clear a wave. It's always one of the questions you're asking yourself specifically as an offlane, but really as any hero, because the better you understand how to efficiently clear a wave, the better your rotations can become, the faster they become, the lower your downtime on the map will be. So we know that the archers basically have the most valuable stats on a given wave. So that's pretty much always going to be a priority kill the target because they do the most damage. They have the least health. So taking them out is both the quickest and it preserves our wave the longest. And then the wizard has the lowest health, so if you have any AoE, you should basically always just let it die to AoE and don't waste your auto attacks on it. Notable exception would be like if you're playing Leoric, you need to hit the wizard with your auto attack so that your splash will always hit every minion. You can't get that angle for the cleave any other way. But in general, you're gonna go Archer's Wizard melee. So I'm just gonna refresh the wave. And show. So I'm playing Samuro here because it's easy to control because you don't have any splash damage. So we prioritize Archer every time. And I'll immediately show the following thing, which is stacking waves. So this is a bit of a bad example because normally I wouldn't kill every archer here. But the idea is if you kill the archers but you don't kill anything else, your wave is going to get stuck on their melee minions and their wizard minion. Which means it's gonna they're gonna take a while before they move on because they will just be stuck trying to get rid of the melees. And because this is happening, your wave is going to start building up. So you can see now that my wave just walked all the way up to the lane and has joined the other one, and they've like merged into this big minion wave. And this is creating like lane imbalance, which over time builds up and starts whittling down structures. And because the wave is like out of balance now, if they ignore this, their wave will continuously be a bit weaker than mine. So this snowball is going to keep continuing. The cleanest way to do this is usually the easiest way to set it up is hitting just 2 archers. Otherwise, your wave snowballs through too quickly. Because if you kill all 3 archers, your wave dies faster, and then they run into towers quicker, and the build-up is going to be slower. But anything works. Like the moment you create slight wave imbalance, this is going to happen naturally, and they need to deal with it. Next patch, well, we don't know about the changes yet, but presumably you're going to want to do the opposite of this and make sure that your opponent sets up this wave imbalance. But it's always good to know that you can set up these slow style pushes just by like killing some minions in their wave, which should be the archers. So the next thing, I'm going to have to make an enemy hero for a bit. This will be freezing. So the idea behind freezing is that once your opponent has pushed in a wave, you can make sure that the minions are attacking you, and you can try to put them close to your wall without them actually dying to the wall. At which point they're gonna... Okay, so I can just like get rid of Blaze now. Blaze has caused a wave imbalance. So we now know the wave is here. We're gonna cancel it. And it's built up on my side now. And now I'm just gonna ignore it. And as long as I ignore this wave, it will always be a bit closer to my side of the lane than their side. So they have to step up further, and I can just like safely soak at towers. Nice thing about Samuro specifically, but other heroes with summons can do the same, is you can drop clones. Clones do like barely any damage to the wave, but they will take minion aggro. So that really helps with freezing because it puts you at even less risk. You don't even need to put your body in the lane anymore to stop the minion wave from approaching. You don't need to animation cancel, you can just put clones there. But any hero can essentially do this. So at some point this wave starts building up a lot and you don't want your towers to die. So you can start just like trimming a bit. Use up your clones. And you just want to make sure that like it doesn't build up too much so that your tower stays safe. Because you still want to protect your wall, you just don't want to step out to get the soak. So often like you would prioritize hitting archers for like preserving your wave or your wall the best, but typically if you're freezing you want to like do the least amount of stepping out you can, so you just end up stepping out just far enough to kill the melees, and that's it. On Summoner you get a bit less because like you're almost invincible in lane. Like it's really hard to kill the Summoner under towers when he's got Q, D, and E up. But yeah, this is the general way that you keep minions on your side. And then if you want to bait your opponent into a freeze, what you typically want to do is try to bait that AoE abilities out on the wave. So if we just reset the wave again, we're gonna send Blaze back. So Blaze is gonna come, and this is a bit of a bad example because it's AI. So he should prioritize the wave. I know if he doesn't see me. But I'm gonna like stand in my wave. And the Blaze is gonna try to hit me with Qs. Come on. Oh well. The point is, usually your opponent is gonna try and hit you with whatever. If you're standing in your wave and you're intentionally taking the damage, which usually like, you never want to do, if you want to keep your own wave alive, you want to be outside of your own wave so they can't cleave on you and your wave. But if you want the wave to push into you so you can freeze, you stand inside. So if they want to hit you, they have to hit the wave, and if they hit the wave, they cause wave imbalance, which then makes it push to your side. So that's really the main two things you do in terms of manipulating minion waves. It's either let it push, freeze with animation cancelling. Well, you don't even have the animation cancel. And then you save soak. And the other thing you can do is set up a slow push by killing part of the wave, causing wave imbalance, which is basically like, it's the opposite of setting up a freeze. You're basically setting it up for your opponent, except in this scenario it's valuable to do so because you are expecting them to either ignore it or be forced to clear it. So currently it's usually worth to do so because it's actually like worth taking towers, worth pushing into the fort, worth getting that XP. On the next patch, assuming like nothing really changes from what's shown on PTR, you don't want your building getting pushed into. You still value your wall because it has a bit of XP, but you really don't want your or you actually kind of like don't want to get the enemy fort because it means you get catapults, which means your wave is going to be like permanently pushing into them, which means you're getting zone out of XP, etc. Which is why it's valuable now to know how to freeze in lane. So it's easier for you to like deny push, deny XP. And then some heroes have the beauty that they not only can they get a freeze going, but they're also quite good at zoning. So Hero right now is kind of garbage. After the recent set of nerfs, the mana nerfs, the Marat's nerf, and then the armor nerf that's coming up, which affects her level 4, she's not that good. But she does do one thing really well, which is because she has Righteous Hammer. Let's get a bit of a wave imbalance here. So we're gonna summon her tennis. And the basic thing we want to do is, once the wave is on our side, we stop hitting the wave, we walk behind it, and then we just try to zone the enemy hero. So we're gonna try and hit the enemy hero without hitting the wave. And we're gonna keep like knocking them away. And by doing this we try to like push them out of XP range, make sure that it's hard for them to get to the soak. Similarly, you can do this kind of stuff if you're playing like off-lane ETC, because he has the bumps. It also works for like denying Denying globes. Nice swap.
It is time to take a stand.
Okay. Okay, so now we just go hit this guy.
The light will protect us.
Let the minions leash back. And I want to hit ideally like the least amount of minions I can. In the globe. So this Artanis is very adamant about being here.
Protect my people.
What normally happens is that there's some amount of like minimum distance you need to keep from the enemy wall because it exposes you to rotation. So like if he's camping in front of my wall, it's pretty likely he's gonna die. So people try to hover in around this range so that it's still possible for them to be mounted and walk back. And what you want to do is like just push them away from being mounted. Like this guy's just, because it's a bot, he's running into towers. The really notorious example from this doesn't even require a freeze. And you will see it a lot, even in Hero League people have started to kind of realize you can just get away with this. It's the Leoric versus Blaze lane. In which case you just have the minions clash as Leo, and then you stand between the archers and the Blaze's wall. So I'm gonna get rid of this guy. Oh fuck. So I want a Blaze. Don't want nothing else, and I want to refresh the wave. This is kind of annoying, but okay. So I'm just gonna run straight at him for a bit. Once wave comes, I'm like fucking off. I don't want to pull wave aggro. Okay, so wave aggro has been hit now, and the AI is retarded. This would be easy to demonstrate with a player, but the idea is essentially once wave clashes. This Blaze doesn't want to like take this trade because it's horrible for him, right? Like he's dying, and like obviously he's a bot, but he doesn't have the stats to fight Leo. So what happens is you just camp here, and whenever the Blaze tries to step up, you're like, nope. If he's close, you get like a QW on him. If he's not, you just like keep standing here, and all he can do really is like poke you. Like he can spam Qs on you. So if you're like mindful to not get hit by double Q all the time, you basically aren't worried about dying at all. Like at some point you might have to tap, or you just keep dipping back into the wave to get the globes because they're just dying from minion combat and Blaze isn't getting to them. So that's an example of like a really notorious lane where you don't even need to freeze to start zoning. You can just start zoning because your raw stats are like so much better in the 1v1. Then there is one more thing. Oh, there's a lot more things, but there is one more really important thing that's gonna change between the live patch right now and the upcoming patch. And that's how you time mercenary camps. So once again, we're gonna disable everything. We're gonna get started on this camp. And this is something people always fuck up. And it's something every team should worry about. And you only really start seeing it done consistently well in pro play by a few teams. And it's when you time your merc camps. And it doesn't mean timing with objective, it means timing around your wave. So I can't send these down. I should just do this in time mode. I forgot I can't send them in the lane. I'm actually just gonna go into a sandbox. So the key point about this is, if you cap your minions, if you camp your mercenary camp ahead of the wave, let's take this guy. Sure, we can take top camp. There you go. If you cap your mercenary camps so they're ahead of the wave, the camp is gonna get focus fired by minions, and it's gonna get focus fired by towers, and it's gonna die. So capping it ahead of the wave, it dies really quickly. If you cap it behind your minion wave, so that the camp is walking after your own wave, your wave is gonna tank the enemy's minion wave, your wave is gonna tank the enemy's towers, and it's gonna create like a lot more push because your camp will be alive a lot longer. So currently the thing you really want to do is make sure that you're capping once your wave is walking around here so that the camp will walk out and it's going to be behind your wave and it's going to get better pushed on. On the next patch it may legitimately be optimal to make sure that your camp is kept ahead of the wave so it will run into towers quicker. So it eats the minion damage, leaves the tower damage, it dies. Not sure if I can spawn the camps right away. I can, nice. Okay, so just gonna get this. Okay, so if I'm playing well now, I'm gonna cap here. My wave is walking in front. The camp is gonna join behind. And now my wave is gonna be tanking the damage on their wave, and this camp is like safe in the back, pew-pewing on their wave. And that's gonna create like the best push. And that's the thing you currently want on the live patch, because it's like actually valuable to push right now. On the next patch, barring any like more extreme changes, you will probably want to make sure that your camp is kept ahead of your own wave so that they will be inting to towers. So that's really the basics of wave management. At a higher level, a lot of what this is about is you're still concerned about how you set up your wave so you get a freeze on them, so you don't get frozen, so just perfectly in the middle, whatever. But a really big deal at that point becomes, how do I move in such a way that I can constantly rotate to my team if I'm needed? I can make half rotations and be back without missing soak. I can spend the minimum amount of time showing on the minimap, so I give like less info to my opponent. When can I maybe like go out of lane to take a merc camp if I'm missing any soak? Do I need to call my team up so they can capture that? So a lot of like higher level offlaning revolves around enabling rotations for both yourself and your team, getting half rotations done, minimizing the amount of time you need vision. So for example, if you're freezing and you aren't trying to zone the opponent out of XP, it might legitimately be worth just sitting behind your gates so they don't have vision on you, so they can't actually be sure, is someone getting the XP? If I get ganked, will my lane opponent actually be here, etc. So that's all like really relevant considerations. Basic wave manipulation isn't too hard once you understand the principle of footmans tank a lot, but they don't deal a lot. Archers deal a lot, but they can't tank a lot, and the wizard is useless except that he gives a globe. And it gets you into the specific mindset of like, once you kill, if you really want like specifically to preserve your wave, you want to prioritize archers. If you, I don't know, you want your wave to quickly kill the rest, you can prioritize melees, but then your own melees are going to die to their archers. You can start being like, okay, I know how much damage my wave roughly deals, I know how much health these minions roughly have, so I can start mounting now, and then by the time I am like rotating, the last minion will die, I will still be at soak range, so you can get that hit, so you could like shave time of your rotations that way. There's a lot of stuff you can do, but the really important part is understanding this is the stats the wave has, this is how the AI behaves, and from there you can just start thinking, what if I want the wave to do this? Is there a way I can set it up? And then you start experimenting, you start fucking about in try mode, like, oh, if I kill these minions in this order, then this thing will happen. And if I repeatedly do that over so many ways, or maybe I do it while like rotating, I can set up these specific situations where the wave is ready for pushed in, or it's coming to me, or it's gonna die, or maybe my opponent has set up a freeze on me, but they just showed on the map. So if I very aggressively push in the wave now, my wave is going to run into my opponent's wall, the wall will clear, and I can then reset the lane so that the freeze stops happening, and then you can like make sure that you don't set up the freeze for your opponent again. A lot of stuff you can do like that. You just need to realize exactly like, you need to get a good feeling of the stats on your wave, the stats on towers, the stats on your heroes, etc. So I hope that's helpful for some people. I realize it's very unstructured and a bit of a ramble, but hope you enjoyed.